Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the April 17th, 2019 meeting of the District Advisory Council to order, and welcome everyone to our meeting. If you all had an opportunity, Cassie sent everybody out a copy of the minutes. If you've had an opportunity to review that, I would entertain either a motion for changes or corrections or a motion to approve at this time.
Ladies first when it comes to
All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. At this time, we will open the floor to public comment from any non-DAC members on agenda items. Seeing none, we'll close that. Okay, and we will go directly into our presentation on tobacco and vaping and what we can do to try to stop it, I hope, right?
Yes, yes.
Ms. Rodriguez will take the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Hertz. I'm Mary Lynn Rodriguez, the coordinator for school counseling services, and within our department, we have prevention services. We are tasked with the opportunity to provide education and prevention initiatives within the district, all levels, K through 12. So I'm going to introduce to you our two prevention specialists. We have Kathy Wynn and Sarah Thompson, and they're going to present. Go ahead and present it, and I'm going to do the tech assistance on the side. Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Let me get this on. Anyway, we're happy to be here tonight, and we're going to talk to you a little bit, give you some information on tobacco and vaping and the problems with it. The Food and Drug Administration came out in September of last year that there was an epidemic among our young people with using e-cigarettes. In the statement, the FDA acknowledged that the biggest trend in youth e-cigarette use are with the cartridge-based e-cigarettes like the Joule. And if you haven't had a chance, sometime this evening, we do have a display board over there. We do have a couple of Joules in there. We have a Joule e-cigarette pen with the charger and without the charger. So if you haven't seen those, you can see that. Florida Youth Survey. Every year in the state of Florida, over 54,000 students, middle school and high school, are surveyed. They're asked a whole slew of questions, including use with vaping and cigarette use. Our youth survey results showed that there was a 30-day reported use for electronic cigarettes was 10 times the rate of traditional cigarette use. They asked for 30 days because that's kind of more recent. If you've more recently used it, that tends to be an indicator that you may be currently using it. So they'll ask for the 30 days. What they found, traditional cigarette use was under 2%, and it's far higher for the electronic cigarettes. This particular chart, we have it on both sides there. Okay, it shows in green, it's Lee County students, middle and high school, and in orange, it's Florida. It's showing how their responses, their reports about how often they have vaped. The first two bars represent middle and high school students who have reported vaping sometime in their lifetime. It might be one time, it could be multiple times, but sometime in their lifetime. You can see Lee County students reported vaping sometime in their lifetime more than Florida students as a whole. Then they also asked them about the past 30 days. And once again, Lee County students reported vaping in the past 30 days at a higher rate than the Florida students. Shows there may be a little bit of a concern here in Lee County. Now, when you hear the word vaping, it's not a good term. It's not a vapor, and that's one of the problems. A lot of young people have started this because they thought this is a harmless water vapor. A lot of older people didn't think it was a big deal. But what they're really expelling is not a vapor, it's an aerosol. And there are particles in this particular aerosol that comes out of the e-cigarettes. They have nicotine in it. The nicotine-based, of course, there are e-cigarettes, which we'll get into a little bit later, that are not nicotine-based, but those with nicotine have that. You have ultrafine particles, heavy metals, and other organic compounds. So there's also a concern with secondhand smoke, because you have this aerosol they're breathing in the aerosol, and they're also exhaling the aerosol. So we have concerns both ways. So what's in it? If you look at this list of about 67 chemicals, these are different chemicals that have been found in aerosol from e-cigarettes. The ones in orange are known to be hazardous for humans. So this is some of the different things that are found. So let's look at some of these chemicals. Propylene glycol. Anyone have any idea, any chemist in here have any idea of what we could find it in? What do you think? Antifreeze. Boy, are you a chemist? Plumber. Okay. And he's correct. He is correct. So if you need help in chemistry, he can do it, because even though you're not a chemist, you obviously have some background. Acetone. Acetone might be an easier one. Anyone have any idea?
Nail remover. Nail polish.
Nail polish, okay, I heard that. Yes, nail polish remover. Nail polish remover. It's takes the nail polish off of the nails, and that stuff can be pretty hard on nails, and they're ingesting it. Think about what it can do to the lungs. Ethylbenzene. Ethylbenzene. Anyone have any idea where we might find ethylbenzene in addition to e-cigarette aerosol?
Gases.
Gasoline, good guess. It might be something in there. I know ethyl, but ethylbenzene. It's commonly used in pesticides. So another wonderful product to inhale, right? This is really sad. Formaldehyde. Anyone know of formaldehyde? Embalming. Nicotine, we should pretty much know that. That's our cigarettes. Rubidium. This is kind of a hard one. Rubidium.
Cough syrup.
Yeah, no idea.
Fireworks.
Oh,
So these are some serious things. And we've spoken with kids, and it kind of opens their eyes a little bit when they find out these chemicals that are found in e-cigarette aerosol are also found in these other products, and it kind of opens their eyes a little bit. So we're going to show you about a minute video. It's CNN did this study on 56 e-cigarettes. Well, CNN didn't do the study, but they reported on the study. And they're going to show you what some of the results were regarding aerosol.
Petite isn't finger looking good. Stand tall, stay smart, it's not only affecting you.
Hashtag Nick No Teen.
We are starting the e-cigarette, we are heating the e-liquid, we are generating an aerosol, and we are collecting the aerosol back so that we can actually measure the metals. We found that the levels of metals in the aerosol were much higher than the original levels in the e-liquid before it was heated. Our strongest suspicion is that the coil is the place in the device from where the metals are leaching out. Lead levels were 25.4 times higher in the aerosol as compared to the original e-liquid. We also found other metals that are well known to be carcinogenic, such as nickel, chromium, and then arsenic, which is a well-known poison.
The problem here is we're not telling the whole.
Okay, so that study showed that metal levels were actually higher in the aerosol than the original e-liquid. So they're thinking, of course, the leaching out from the coils. Okay, we're getting ready to go back to the next one.
There we go.
Okay, so this is an image of actual e-juice or e-liquid containers. They're kind of colorful. Candy King. That's a really good way of attracting young people. There are over 7,000, we've read, somewhere up to 15,000 different flavors of e-liquid. And there's a lot of sweet sounding, sweet tasting e-liquid that these young people seem to be attracted to. But What we find in this, the nicotine-based, they have nicotine in it, they have different flavoring chemicals. The propylene glycol, which we already learned, antifreeze, vegetable glycerin, and a variety of other chemicals in these e-liquid. So how much nicotine is actually in an e-cigarette? Well, it varies. Depending on the e-liquid or e-juice that you are purchasing, it can vary. It is monitored by their own organization, and it's not always reliable. So what a label might say of nicotine percentage may not be true. The Joule Pods, now remember the FDA said the most popular e-cigarette by the youth are cartridge-based, like the Joule Pods. And their own website says that the standard Joule Pod has the same amount of nicotine as a regular pack of 20 cigarettes. So a young person who's vaping can easily go through multiple pods a day by just constantly vaping, and it doesn't take long. In addition, Joule uses nicotine salts. So the concentration of nicotine is about 2.7 times higher than what you would have in a traditional cigarette. So not only are they getting a lot of this nicotine, it's very potent. And Kathy's going to continue and explain why it really affects the teenager.
The old microphone. All right, so back to our topic here. So why are teens more at risk? The teenage brain is not fully formed yet. They don't mature until they're 25 years old. And so they are much more prone to addiction than adult brains because they build connections faster. That's why they can learn some things faster than some of us older folks. Nicotine changes the way the connections are formed, and so it harms the parts of the brain that control attention and learning. And teens that vape are 4 times more likely to smoke cigarettes than teens who do not. Teens that smoke in general, so any teen that smokes is 3 times more likely to use alcohol, 8 times more likely to use marijuana, and 22 times more likely to use cocaine. So we're going to talk a little bit about that type of thing, the teens and addiction, in a few minutes. Nicotine is as addictive as other drugs, and so research suggests that nicotine is as addictive as cocaine, heroin, and alcohol. So nicotine is a very, very addictive drug. So teen substance use in general, the earlier an individual starts drinking, smoking, or using drugs, the greater the likelihood of addiction. So to put that into perspective, 90% of people who abuse or are addicted to nicotine, alcohol, or other drugs began using prior to the age of 18. Only 4% of people who are addicted or have substance addiction problems started using after the age of 21. And so the message is the longer you delay, the less likely you are to have a problem with a substance, whether you start with nicotine, alcohol, or another type of drug. Those that use prior to 18 are much, much more likely to have a problem. And so that's why it's so important that, you know, we all realize that it's not harmless vapor. It does have nicotine in it, and it's really priming them for addiction. So how can you tell if your teen's vaping? So there's some things that we tell parents you can look for, and here are some of those. One of them, if their room or their clothes smell artificially sweet, don't assume it's a candle or lotions or shampoo or aftershave, and they may actually start using more perfume and aftershave to try to cover the other sweet smell. So that smell, that sweet smell, could be that they are vaping. Nosebleeds are very common among vape users, so because it's very dehydrating, and on that same note, they report an increased thirst. They also are more, here we go. They often have bloodshot eyes. Again, that part of that is the dehydration also. And they usually have a heightened caffeine sensitivity. So they're getting the nicotine, which is a stimulant. And so kids that were used to getting, their Starbucks and coffee, you may see that they no longer want to have any other type of stimulant. And so that's something to look for also. If they had a habit of getting coffee or Starbucks or whatever, and they stop, that could be a sign they're getting that stimulant from nicotine instead. This is something we want people to be aware of. So there's companies now, this is one that stands out. It's called Vaporware. It is spelled that way. It's not a typo. And it's actually a company that is now making money by helping people conceal vaping. And so, it might look like a normal backpack or a normal hoodie, but instead it has places where you can put the guts of the vape, and then if you can see, the strings of her hoodie are actually where she would smoke the vape, and the backpack has the same thing, a device that's hidden on behind the strap that they can vape. So they make their money on helping people conceal it. One of their slogans is something, because what you vape and when you vape is your own business. And so, that's really awesome. And of course, they advertise all the places where teens are on YouTube and, in social media. And so these things are out there. So, I mean, it's, just adding to the problem, making it hard for people, parents and teachers and anybody to recognize that, oh, that's actually when they're not just sucking on their their string on their hoodie. I remember years ago my kids had one that had little earbuds on the ends of their hoodie, but they did not wear them to school, I guarantee you. So marijuana concentrates. So with all these really cool vaping devices, it didn't take long before people realized, hey, we could put marijuana concentrates in this, and it's much, much harder for people to detect that someone is smoking marijuana. So it's also known as a THC extraction, DAB or BHO, which stands for butane hash oil. Marijuana concentrates a highly potent THC concentrated mass that's often similar in appearance to honey or butter. And so you'll see on the right, they have different names for them, and it's just really what form it's in. So you'll see wax, butter, crumble, shatter, all those different names. Those are, if you hear somebody talking about those things, they're most likely not really talking about butter or shatter or anything. They may be talking about marijuana concentrates. The effects on the user are usually more psychologically and physically intense than plant marijuana, and we're going to talk about why that is. Ways to use marijuana concentrates include smoking them in pipes or e-cigarettes, or eating or drinking products that are infused with them. And so there are a lot of, you may see sometimes in the paper about somebody having gummy worms that had THC in it and that type of thing. Those things are out on the market. They have soft drinks with them. They have baked goods. They've gone way past pot brownies. They have all sorts of baked goods that have the actual THC concentrate instead of plant-based marijuana. And again, that's much, much stronger. Vaping marijuana concentrates is called dabbing, and it's often preferred because it's smokeless, odorless, and easy to conceal, and it also ensures an instant high. So it's, again, much more powerful. They contain an extraordinarily high level of THC. It can range from 40 to 80% compared to traditional, which I'm using the word traditional, but that means the plant-based cannabis, which now it's about 14 to 15% THC. It didn't used to be that way. It didn't used to be as strong. Because of the high THC content, possessing even as little as 1 drop of marijuana concentrate constitutes a felony in the state of Florida. And so if a child has a THC concentrate in his vape, he goes to jail. He's arrested. It's a felony. And we were at a seminar with a police officer, and he just like, the kids need to know, there's like, we can't, like, it's not, it's a felony. He's like, we can't just be, oh, he didn't know, you know, I mean, it's a serious thing. They leave the school in handcuffs, you know? It's not good. So here's how how the THC levels have changed. So this is based on confiscated marijuana. And in the early 1990s, it was mostly, if not all, plant-based, so you're just regular marijuana. Back then, the THC level was 3.7 average, okay? So in 2013, that level had gone up to 9.6. And again, this is the average between plant-based and if there was even marijuana concentrate in 2013, there wasn't as much of it. But now the average marijuana THC level is 50%. And again, like they said, that's because they're averaging the plant and the marijuana concentrate. And so it's so much stronger. You know, as they have a saying in some of the stuff we've seen, this is not your mama's marijuana. So this isn't what people, you know, say, oh, I tried it in college. This is not that. This is so much higher in THC content. And the THC is the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana. And so that's the thing that makes them, you know, high. So marijuana vaping. So this is the reported past 30-day use of marijuana vaping. And this is not a Florida statistic. This is United States. Monitoring the Future did this study. So they showed the difference just between 2017, which is your green, and 2018, which is your orange. So just in that 1 year, 8th graders reported that in the past 30 days, 1.6% in 2016 is up to 2.6% in 2018. That's an increase of about 62.5%. 10th grade, 4.3% in 2017, 7. That's an increase of about 63%. And then 4.9 in 12th grade up to 7.5, and that's an increase in, I think it's about 30, I remember these numbers from doing it, so if you, 53%, I think. Anyway, it's going up. So marijuana vaping, again, it's attractive because of the novelty of the devices and because it allows them to do it without adults knowing it. So here we have a video. I will...
At the peak of his addiction, 15-year-old Luca Kiner was spending $150 a week to support his vaping habit.
I noticed, I was like, this is getting out of control.
His parents noticed too. A stellar student on track to become an Eagle Scout, suddenly withdrawn and unmotivated.
Went from being a straight A student to an F student.
Luca was one of the 3.5 million middle and high school students using e-cigarettes, intended to be a safer alternative to smoking, but experts like Dr. Sharon Levy say for teens, it can be addictive, and the impact on their developing brain still unknown.
They're getting very high nicotine levels in their bloodstream, and that's causing them problems with things like paying attention and focusing, and that's really new.
Now at her addiction clinic, she's seeing a surge in teens struggling to kick the habit.
We're seeing more mental health and psychiatric problems that are happening immediately.
After Luca says excessive vaping caused him to have a seizure, his parents sent him to a 40-day treatment program where group counseling taught him healthy ways to cope with anxiety and stress.
We're grateful to have him back. We questioned whether we ever would.
Later this month, the FDA will discuss therapies for teens with nicotine addiction. For Luca, where there was help,
It's given me another opportunity to, start life back up.
there was hope. Katie Beck, NBC News.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by...
All right, so like they said in the video, there really are not any teen nicotine cessation programs yet that are approved by the FDA. And just just for your knowledge, e-cigarettes were never approved by the FDA as a way even for adults to quit smoking. So they're not one of the approved ways to quit smoking either. But for teens, it's become a problem because they don't prescribe nicotine patches, nicotine gum, because it was always, don't give children nicotine. And so they are, some doctors are having to write off script to get prescriptions, to get those things for teens that are addicted. And also, there are some medications, prescription medications that have helped adults, but they haven't really been tested on teens. I know, I would be reluctant to have my child try, a drug that isn't approved for, someone under 18. So anyway, so that's another problem. So medical experts say there's an urgent need for research on therapies to treat kids who are addicted to nicotine, and anyone who believes they need help to quit should consult a medical professional. And so that's what we would tell parents is, you need to take him to your doctor and find out, what he thinks. We're not obviously medical people. There are different, programs that, for regular cigarettes or for whatever smoke-free teen. Again, those aren't approved by the FDA, but there are some things out there. They're trying things like, using texting for support as opposed to, going to groups or those things. But again, nothing has been approved yet. They're working hard to try to find how to help get these teens off of nicotine. And that's all. So we are open for questions. Sarah, you want to join me? Does anybody have any questions before we break into groups? Yes?
THC
Mm-hmm.
Is that something they're getting off the streets? Or are they...
That's a good question.
Well, it's not legal in the state of Florida.
Could you please repeat the question? We need to have that.
She asked, where are the THC, where would kids be getting the THC concentrates? And so, yes, they could be getting them off the street, online. There's some things online, obviously. So, yes.
To comment on that, are we supposed to tell where we're from?
If you could go to the podium, just so
even
everyone
better.
else recording is going to the podium and just ask a
Fantastic.
question to you. If we sorry, you have to follow.
No, you're good. I'm first. Yeah, you're good. Well, because I want to speak directly to that.
Yeah, speak to that, speak to that. And you're bigger than me.
Okay.
Tell us your name.
Eric Riemenschneider, is this on? Awesome. Eric Riemenschneider, Edison Park Elementary, DAC rep, and former Fort Myers High Golden Apple teacher in my former life. Thank you. That's I wish anyway. The boys' bathroom was directly adjacent to my classroom, and there's never enough time to go to the bathroom. Every single day that I went to the bathroom, and Fort Myers High is a fantastic school with great teachers. Every single day that I went to the restroom because I had to go, a kid was vaping. And I haven't, this is 4 years ago. And they like freeze and there's like a cloud. And I'm like, you're busted. I just want to pee. But in where they're getting, I knew the kids, I knew the families. It's the most awkward, uncomfortable situation ever because I'm trying to make kids make better choices and give them options. I would say half the kids looked right at me and said, my parents endorsed this because they're up in arms about helping their kids. We're all in the same fight, and they're like, if it's helping them, they don't understand. I'm so glad you guys are doing this, but where they're getting it, sometimes, that's all.
That's a good point.
And that's a good point, especially with the e-cigarettes. The THC concentrate, they may be getting that from their parents, but a lot of that is going to be coming probably from the street because of the illegality about it. But I'm not law enforcement, so I can't really speak to that. But, we also know that a lot of young people who choose to use e-cigarettes are acquiring these products from older friends or older siblings who are purchasing these for them. So we know that is also happening.
I want to make something clear too, and when we do our parent presentations, this is important. It's not the bad kids who are doing it. It is the IB kids, it is the athletes, it is the, ESC, it crosses all boundaries. So, we get into our comfort zones where my daughter gets straight A's, I'm good, I'm sure she doesn't do this. They're all doing it. Not all, I don't mean every student's doing it, but it does not matter what their grades are, or if they are in dance, or if they're, a top athlete, or if, they have a part-time job. It doesn't matter. It's crossing all the the borders, and, there's no parent is safe from, don't think that your child's not doing it just because of their grades or because they're a great kid, because there's a lot of great kids. And I personally, I have two teenagers also. I have a 19-year-old and I have a 17-year-old, and they both have friends that vape. And in fact, my younger daughter is a senior at Fort Myers High School. Her best friend started vaping. Her parents vape. Her dad smoked cigarettes also. And it wasn't long before she went out to her car, and I saw there's a cigarette next to her car. So when she left, I said to my daughter, is she now smoking cigarettes? She's like, well, just a little bit. That's exactly what happens. They end up dual using, they vape, and that leads them. Like they said, they're 4 times more likely to use cigarettes than someone who didn't vape. And so all the work that we've done to have our cigarette numbers go so far down, I mean, our cigarette numbers in Lee County are less than the state of Florida. But meanwhile, we have this other animal to deal with. So, yes. I know, I'm sorry.
Your questions, I think we
over here, there's some line going now.
Okay. Hi, Dante Chalfie, Fort Myers Technical College. Just a quick question on the legislation end of things. Remember how Philip Morris was such a well-organized, potent entity, and the whole cigarette company industry? How well organized and how well funded are the e-cigarette manufacturers and providers? And if you know, how much total is being spent on lobbying efforts in Tallahassee?
First of all, Philip Morris owns an e-cigarette company. So a lot of these are tobacco companies that were losing revenue, and they figured out something new to do.
I don't really know what the lobbying, the dollar amounts. We do know that Joule, which is very popular, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, and they haven't been around since they came around 2015, so they haven't been around very long. So there's money out there, but what they're doing in lobbying efforts, we can't speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a question over here?
I did. They were first anyway, so.
Sandra Wright, East Lee County High School, DAC alternate, marriage and family therapist. I have a question regarding the statement that was made that there are no current researches out there to find treatment. There isn't any specific treatment or anything that needs to be created. E-cig smoking comes from just the same reason why people smoke cigarettes or drink alcohol. There are issues that cause them to start smoking, so they don't have to come up with any specific quote-unquote therapy. What is currently out there is what can be used. Children are smoking, children are drinking because they have real issues in the home, and more than likely they see their parents smoking, or they have something that is going on, or they're following friends, but there does not need to be any specific. And I'm trying to wrap my brain, like, who even came up with this question, like stating that there are no real therapies out there. There doesn't need to be any real therapies. Get them help, because the issue, the root of what is causing the smoking is what needs to be handled. What is causing them to smoke? What's causing my child to drink? What's causing my child to smoke? Root issues that's going on inside of them.
I think what we're really trying to share, our research shows that cessation therapies and treatments have not been tested on young people. So they don't know how successful they will be with young people. They have tobacco cessation products and therapies for adults, and they've been tested for adults, but they haven't really looked to see exactly what might work best for the younger people, and so that's where they're working on.
I understand that, and that's one of the issues, trying to use a drug to counteract a drug. Get them into treatment so that they could begin to talk about what's going on inside of them. That's my statement.
Correct, you're correct. And if you saw the video that we showed, they talked about how that student was able to engage in therapy and how to find ways to cope better with what's going on. So that's correct. And Sarah, you're also correct. And when we were referring to that, it was more cessation type of therapies. It wasn't in reference to mental health therapies, which we definitely can do, definitely implement. And it's something that we need to look at, and even talked about how we're having more mental health issues because kids are addicted to that. So.
Thank you. You've been waiting so patiently, but hers is a segue right into my comment/question. I'm Michelle Candiano. I'm a school nurse. I'm actually here tonight with DAC representing Edgewood Elementary, excuse me. So my children grew up through the wonderful Lee County School District, and they're both graduated, and they're wonderful adults, contributing members of society nowadays. And my question is, they were graduates of the DARE program. What prevention, we're talking about what to do now that our children, these statistics are staggering. So what prevention are we doing for these families? Because that DARE really helped open my eyes, and it was a great segue for our family to discuss issues that were going on. Is there anything that's going to happen at the elementary level? Let's start at elementary level and then continue on with them.
So we have the health. Mary Lynn can talk to you a little bit more, but we do have a variety of things. You want to go ahead?
Specifically, through prevention services, we have, like the presentation you just saw now, we have different ones developed for parents, and we do them one per each zone per month, according to our topic. So we've done alcohol, social media, vaping, tobacco, so we have different topics a month, and then we go to each zone, do a parent presentation. We also have similar presentations for students that we are able to disseminate to school counselors, social workers, any school staff that may use that. We have teachers that have also used it in their class and have incorporated that. We offer to go out to the schools and provide classes. We've gone to middle schools and high schools and done presentations, worked with the students involving pre and post tests to kind of see where they are and what they've learned from that as well. And a lot of the drug just topics of substance abuse is discussed in our health classes also, in the high school, in the health classes, and then a little bit in the middle school.
Okay. I again work at an elementary, Edgewood Elementary, and I work very closely with my school counselor, and we're a Tier 3 school, and I'm hoping they're trying to pull nurses out and give us 2 schools, and I'm hoping that that does not happen, because I would like to work very closely next year with my guidance counselor, school counselor, excuse me, to start working. We don't really get into the classrooms and do guidance and trainings and education like I would like to. So I will hopefully get there.
And there's other ways and I can definitely speak with your school counselor. We've talked about videotaping even small little segments that when the teacher is ready to, or has 5 minutes that they want to, or 10 minutes of little snippets of information that we can provide for the students, they can play that. It'll be available to them, and they can just play that for the students.
No time testing. We gotta test.
Good evening. Cedric Hall with Gateway Elementary. By my profession is I'm an attorney, and what I would like to ask or propose, what policies will be in place due to the change in the marijuana from traditional form to the concentrated form. And I wanted to use the legal terms, but I'm not going to do that because I've had clients who have actually gone through that process. So what policies will be placed so that, and parents educated on that process of what will happen if a student get caught with those items?
So
I hope
that would be more like the code of conduct. Is that what you're speaking of?
Right.
I know that that is in review. However, we are not privy to that information because it's not under our department. We might give data or statistics to support that, but that is not, I can't answer that right now.
And I'm saying that I'm not looking for an answer, but I'm just throwing that out there, just for something to be discussed later on.
Yeah, if I can comment for just a moment. So this is a conversation that is being currently had with our high school and our middle school principals relative to this. We're going to call it an epidemic. It really is. I'm just going to call it like it is. And the principals have been requesting support around this, and our executive director for school development, as well as our folks in student services, have been working feverishly to put things into place. There has been counsel provided by our staff attorney relative to the legal consequences. Part of the reason why we're here tonight, one of the reasons why we suspended some of the other work that we had put forward, is because this has come to the forefront, and it was brought to us by our principals that this is a major issue in our schools. And I appreciate Eric's comment that it's the kids start doing things and then we find out about them as adults, right? Much like parents do. So we want to make sure we take this as seriously as possible. You are our representatives as parents in the schools. That's why we wanted it to come here pretty quickly. We encourage you to share this conversation back at your school advisory councils. Your principals are well aware that this is something that we have been talking about at principal meetings and in any other forum that we can get to them. We speak with them about this. Like I said, legal is looking closer at this, and we continue to find ways to get this information out to parents. I will give you a little preview of your breakout sessions. I hope Mary Lynn doesn't mind me stealing a little bit of that thunder, but we are going to be looking to you tonight to provide some input on this. This is a serious issue. There's no doubt about it, and I'm a parent as well. I'm very concerned about it, but I'm also concerned as a district official when I see the types of things children are ingesting. I'm sure each one of you had the same reaction I did when you saw that. So we are really going to be counting on you to go back to schools, to have this conversation, and really to be actively engaged in our conversation tonight. So Cedric, to your point, yes, code of conduct is being addressed. Yes. Principals are being provided with counsel. Yes, we are encouraging this group to get out to as many schools and as many forums as we can possibly do that, because our goal, number one, is to make sure that our children are safe. We want them healthy. We want them safe. 2, we want parents aware of the situation. And 3, we want everybody to understand that there are legal consequences with some of these actions. And that is not for the school district to decide. It is against the law. So we will follow the law in this school district. So that's one of the reasons why we have brought this forward post haste this evening.
And we can help by giving the word out.
Mm-hmm. Scott Hertz, on behalf of Gulf Middle. Even more specific prevention question in the schools. As we heard tonight, a comment about usage in high school bathrooms. That's not just a comment I need to hear tonight, that's very common knowledge. My child is getting ready to matriculate on to high school and has been warned basically by people he knows. They tell him they try not to go to the bathroom all day. Because if you go in the bathroom, you're not looking to either buy drugs or vape, you may get into a physical confrontation with the people because apparently that's their store. Kids aren't supposed to go to the bathroom anymore. But this is common knowledge. So if it's common knowledge that the students are doing this in the bathrooms, why isn't the school district doing something to shut down the bathrooms as a source and a place to do this type of thing? I don't know whether there's sensors for vaping, but certainly airplanes have had sensors in lavatories for years now that detect smoking. Certainly we have personnel. I mean, you just had a former high school teacher talk about the fact that every time he went to the bathroom, they're vaping in there. They're doing it in middle school, and they're clearly doing it constantly in high school. And what boggles my mind is if we all know that they're doing it there, why isn't it being stopped? And what is going to be done to stop it? So at least you can prevent it at school while you do education to try to get them not to do it at home.
And we have a couple of
I'm gonna
answers
allow
we'd like to share. You want to share first,
Go
or do you want us to?
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I just had one more thing to say. We just passed a budget item to add additional supervision in the restrooms I think in the middle and high schools. But the principals, compiled a list of those that needed extra assistance. Those of you that are teachers know it's really hard to cover all of these areas, and as opposed to having teachers using their time or whatever. So we will have these additional restroom attendants at least until the end of the year, and the plan is to see how that works and see if we're going to continue it in the fall.
I would also be remiss if I didn't bring this up. I don't want to create the impression that we have not done anything. One of the reasons why the principals came to us was because they are doing a lot in the schools, not just them, but their entire staffs. So it is not an easy solution. It's very, very easy to say shut down the restrooms, but those of you that are parents in the audience may not necessarily agree with that. I know that children do need to use the restroom. So the answer is there is stuff that is being done currently. And Ms. Gittens just mentioned that we have allocated an additional staff person to many of our schools so that they can get out and actively supervise to an even greater extent the restrooms. So I don't want you to leave tonight with the impression that everybody's leaving the restrooms alone and nobody goes in there. It's quite the opposite. And we do have staff actively supervising, and we've had multiple arrests due to that situation.
Thank you for answering.
Hi, I'm Julie Martinez. I'm with Orangewood Elementary, and this is the third time I've heard or have been in something with having to do with vaping. I just came from the Financial Advisory Committee meeting at 4 o'clock, and I want to say that what they've been saying here at the panel is what we discussed, actually, and that Dr. Atkins had been requested to have additional, actually a position created to help with the high schools. The high school principals met with him and asked for that to combat this problem in the high schools. And that Trey Davis, who is our info specialist, is actually looking at software that detects the vaping, and it would work with an app that would then alert an administrator who could then go right there where it's happening. So they understand that this is a huge problem, and it does start at home. But I've learned so many things, and it really is about education and prevention, and a lot of times our students aren't getting that, and so thank you for bringing it to the classroom. And I would ask that possibly that it's brought to the classroom maybe at earlier ages, maybe 4th and 5th grade. It doesn't have to be like a hardcore, but just kind of introducing the kids to the dangers of substances. When you put any foreign substance in your body, that's not a good thing. And how, as a society, people are tricked into spending their money and their health for things that they think are cool or popular, or to self-medicate or themselves. So I just wanted to say that, yes, we just came from that meeting, and all of those things were discussed, and then also to just to say how prevalent this is. On the radio this morning, they were talking about, somebody had mentioned big tobacco, and how about Philip Morris just bought 30% of Joule stock because they were losing money, because their regular customers are literally starting to die off, and they needed a younger clientele, they needed younger customers, and they're finding that in our kids who are buying these, and it's being advertised as candy. So it's very dangerous, and so thank you for bringing this tonight. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if it's you guys or you guys, but when you compare our numbers statewide, Casey McConnell, Tice Elementary, when you compare our numbers statewide, aren't we always an outlier statewide? Aren't we one of only a few districts that are growing? Aren't we one of the youngest, largest districts? Are there any numbers that we have that actually compare us to reasonably comparable districts that would make more sense? Statewide, we never compare correctly anymore. And that being said, shouldn't, much like everything else, budget-wise, the money we're owed from the state, now vaping and other things, we should be getting support. Shouldn't we and these other ones be asking, and are we asking for more support from the state on help for issues like this? For instance, there was a very short amount of time, my dad still wears that t-shirt with Joe Camel on it, where this kind of thing that looks like candy was legal and isn't now. And I don't understand why us and Dade and Duval aren't together up there complaining. And I know that our lobbyist has a lot on their plate, but that seems like a number of lobbyists, and it's probably not just Florida who should be complaining about these kinds of things. But I don't really care what we compare statewide, because I know that the rest of the state is doing something completely different than our little district all the time lately. So, comparable numbers might help us a little more sometimes. So.
You're asking then to kind of look at the size alike districts?
Yeah,
and then to kind of compare our data with the size alike.
Right, because we do that with everything else. We don't always, when we were looking at A schools and B schools and whatever, we weren't looking statewide. We were looking at the other large districts. How come all of a sudden when it came to vaping, we went, look how giant, who cares? What's Dade doing?
Right. And I think part of it is because we use the basis for that.
I know.
We definitely can research that. I thank you for that.
Right.
That advice, because we can do that. I mean, that does make sense.
Right.
It does make sense to kind of compare to other size alike districts and what they're doing.
And then can we get their lobbyists to come with us and go argue with us?
And I don't hold me to this. I do, no, hold me to it, okay? All right. I'm going to disappear. I'm thinking that the safety and security bill, because it has a portion of mental health involved with it, would be the closest place to look for that. And that is a bill, in fact, we heard today they're still having hearings on it. And most of the thing they're discussing right now, of course, is the guardian piece. But there is a mental health piece. I don't know if that's fluid right now or if that part's already set, but we can look into that and maybe get some information out to you about where we stand on that funding. And I know everyone says, well, if we just go up and tell them, sometimes it's just not that easy. Unfortunately, the majority of the board members just came back from Tallahassee about a week ago, and we met with legislators and people and talking about our issues, and the main thing that I kept bringing up, and a lot of people, was mental health. And it's kind of like what you're saying, a lot of it is the mental health piece, and funding for this type of stuff is under that umbrella of mental health, and we just don't have enough of it. Really don't. So we're working on that part.
One other component, as Lori gets ready to go to the microphone, is to let you know that next month we will have our legislative consultant here, so the timing is actually perfect. Casey, for your suggestion around anything we might want to suggest, she's going to provide us with an update on what happened in Tallahassee. So at that point, the legislative session will be over. The DAC's chance to listen to what occurred, and then also to have some input on the legislative priorities moving forward. So your timing is perfect.
Hi, Lori Fahey, and I'm the Cypress Lake Middle School alternate and mom of a high school student. My only question is, this is a lot of information you shared tonight. Will this be available on YouTube or online so that we can share it more easily? Say yes, please.
We have been, we've had discussions about doing webinars in the coming up school year. We have shared these presentations of course, with our school counselors so they can facilitate, or we can come out and assist facilitation of the presentation so they can reach the kids that way. So hopefully next year we'll have some, I think, Facebook Live or something of that nature.
I was just thinking it might be easier sharing it with the SAC committee, if we have just your presentation you did tonight even. Along with the...
If I may, it is online. It's at leeschools.net.
Right,
Yes,
but
under
that's-
DAC. And so
but-
you all can access it. You probably already have.
That's the whole meeting. I was just thinking a condensed version.
Oh, a smaller version of the PowerPoint, because the PowerPoint is there.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And it is currently available to any school district employee to be able to put that on. And again, we do the presentations in the evening, and we are looking for broader ways, which is one of the reasons why we want your advice tonight too, your input, on how to help get that information out to other parents and students.
Well, we thank you very much for your presentation. There's an amazing coincidence. There are 3 of them, and we have 3 groups for breakout sessions. So one of them will be in each breakout session. It is my understanding they're going to have some questions for us and actually solicit some input from us about what ideas we have that we can do to try to help with this problem. And at this time, before our breakout sessions, we're going to turn to Ms. Gittens for our board update, and then we will proceed to our breakout sessions. Thank you.
Okay, I'll be quick. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. One of the main things last night, was anyone here at the town hall last night? No, you guys couldn't do the district 2 nights in a row? What's that? Okay, as long as you watched it or Facebook Live. I was really excited about that. I've been pushing for that for a while, to be able to have that real-time question going on, and we did have a few. So when we do that, make sure you tune in. The town hall was, of course, about busing and the death of the 2 students and what's being done. There were citizens as well from Cape Coral, Fort Myers, all over, as well as not legislators, but elected officials from all over the county as well. We answered, we got to answer quite a few questions, and one of the things that of course came up was school choice. And you've probably heard about the proximity school choice that we're working on, which will lessen the number of options for a school choice, which therefore will, I'm not saying we're making neighborhood schools, but it will make it a little less far-ranging as far as transportation and all of that. It's a collaborative problem as to what to do. And just like any catastrophe, when it happens, everybody wants to do something, but everyone doesn't know what to do. There are several groups that are working on benches and tables and that type of thing, and you can probably look on the site. In fact, we have at bus stop safety at leeschools.net, and I'm sure they posted some of the ideas, some of the groups that are involved, if you want to get involved with some of them in making benches or tables or handing out lights or that type of thing. I just personally hope it's not like a what I call a seagull approach, because we have a heightened awareness because something happened, and then we just kind of let it die down. When we're trying to come up with answers to situations that happen like this, it needs to be a long-term thing. And the other thing I have to say about that is, well, one thing, a lot of different people are doing the same thing. So the idea of us having this this site, the bus stop safety at Lee Schools, will help some people to realize, okay, this group is doing this. Why don't we get together with this group? And now we've got 50 people doing the same thing. We often will have everybody starting in pockets, but together and collectively we get a lot more done. It is a collaborative effort, and parents and parent involvement, please don't take this the wrong way, but statutorily, from the time your student gets on the bus, or if you bring them and they arrive at school, until they return to that spot, is where the district is responsible. And we need the parental support and involvement from that bus stop home and back. We don't even have, I mean, I can't even think of the staff or whatever it would take to monitor that piece of the puzzle. We are committed to the safety of your child as much as we possibly can, but parents have to get involved with that piece from the bus stop or from the door to your house. It's just, and it's educating your child, letting them know what to do and what not to do. So that piece. The other thing, as a board, we are working on some communication pieces that will help us improve our way of work. We started a process today where we meet 3 days from an action meeting to sit together and discuss all of the agenda items and any issues or questions that we might have. So we have all of that answered before we sit on the dais. Bless you. We also have another process on strategic planning, and I'll tell you about that later. But there are things that are going to help us improve how we do what we do to help you all and help the children of the district. We have a bill, the Grow Your Own, that it's in its last stages in Tallahassee, and that's the one where we will get funding to help us train and keep teachers here in our area. And that is so, so very important that we have homegrown teachers as well. And this is really going to help this. So if you happen to run across, I think it's Elizabeth Bonaquisto and Spencer Roach, or send them a message telling them thank you very much for sponsoring that bill. It's really going to help us. And the last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to ask everyone to do me a favor and to please stand up and face this direction. Not you, Cassie, sit down. We have opportunities in our life to run across people that are excellent. And one of our excellent workers and staff here at this county is Miss Cassie Bishop. She's saying, yeah, that's true. We have some great people. Don't type this, Cassie. Okay. Today is Cassie's last day. Yes. Okay, we can do that again. 1, 2, 3, loud. Oh, okay. She is going on to some, I can't say bigger and better things because this is it, girl. Okay? All right. And I just want everyone to just give her a round of applause and thank her for her hard work. Okay, and I think I'm the last thing before you head out.
To breakout session. Head on to breakout.
Oh, not to your cars. I know. Hi, cuteness. How are you?
It's being pushed through about smoke being free.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back for our breakout reports. I understand Dante is going to give us our high school breakout report.
I'm up first. We had a ton of discussion. I don't even know if I need to do all of this, but education presentations about what is actually in the chemicals, we felt that was critical. People talking more about what's going on, including costs and results of actions taken by the kids. We felt it's important to present a comparison of bad tobacco, vaping, and bad choices, health results of chemicals, and maybe leverage some social media influencers if possible, due to peer pressure. Also, leveraging coaches, athletic coaches, kind of the cool teachers at the schools, to get them to speak out on the issue with students. And also leveraging YouTube. We acknowledged kind of the plethora of YouTube videos in favor of vaping versus not doing vaping. And just trying to launch a campaign throughout the district, leveraging even the sheriff's department to get involved with, something about the dangers of vaping, and even a TV commercial situation. We had someone mention a very, very emotional, bring it down to a planet Earth scenario that occurred. Basically, a girl who had a 3.8 GPA was in a cafeteria. Her good friend said, "Hey, hold this for me, put it in your purse real quick." Next thing she knows, she's busted, out in handcuffs. She was bound for a career in the military, very dedicated to her ROTC, and probably going to be one of the best contributors to our society. That's brutal. So, lots to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm going to do the middle schools tonight. I'm going to stand in here, so let me see. We had some similar ideas, so I'll skip any of the ones. One specific suggestion that came up in our group was Instagram targeted ads to our students. We learned that they did, I think they mentioned in the major session as well, but they did PSAs during movies. The idea was done that they could spend money on targeted Instagram ads, which, I mean, it sounds like just about every kid's doing Instagram these days. So that was one of the big ones among some others. We also talked about giving statistics of how many of your classmates are arrested. Came up that the false reports or the threats of bombs or other violence in schools, when those children got arrested, the last two that got arrested, I noticed it all seemed to stop, right? We had a whole rash of it, then they caught the kids and everybody found out they got arrested. So maybe as people find out that children are getting arrested for the vaping and the THC, maybe that'll start to make an impression on folks, so we shared that. Then we also had a question that came up, can principals confiscate vapes or Joule devices, and if they do they have to be returned? Are these devices truly illegal for the children to possess, and do school personnel have the ability to confiscate them and not return them to the child or to the parent because it's an illegal device when in the possession of a minor? We also had a question that came up about kids vaping on buses and how is that monitored. But anecdotally, it sounds like there may be a number of children that vape on the bus. And as the report we had, last time about bus drivers and all the things they have going on, is that something really the bus driver can manage? But that may be something the district wants to look at. And then we had several other items that Mrs. Rodriguez captured in our room, and we'll pass on in our notes. And now we will turn to elementary school.
The majority of our conversation centered on having a program in schools, and is it up to the schools, or why is it up to the schools and the school counselors to come up with a program to educate, especially at the elementary level, but at any level? Why don't we have a district-wide program? Even if it's just, it was recommended to have a YouTube and maybe even student news based program, and whatever that frequency would be, weekly, daily, whatever that everybody could turn to in the morning and go. That was a recommendation, and that could be different at each level, elementary, high, middle. And the last thing is we have a lot of parents in our district that speak Spanish or Creole. We're going to need information in different, a lot of them. We're going to need stuff in different languages.
Thank you. At this time, we'll open to input from any non-DAC members on any non-agenda items. Does anybody have anything for the good of the order tonight? I would happily entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? All right, everybody, our next meeting is May 17th, and it's going to be the legislative update and a year-end review. Look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.